we go. Can you all hear it?
Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
There we go. Thank you to the wonderful voice who introduces me. I'm Bonnie D. Happy to be here. This is week 5, concluding my 10th annual Crystal Ball prediction show. My, how the years fly. And what's interesting to me is that the shows are still being listened to, being watched from years ago. So I must have had some very profound prognosticators, visionaries, futurists, I like to call. You're all officially my futurist today. So I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to do a shout out to my engineer Jordan at Voice America, who is streaming us on the new YouTube at voiceamerica.com somewhere. I don't know where it is, but he is. I have breaking news for all of you, and then I'm going to do my intro, and then we'll get started with your predictions. So, breaking news. The World Economic Forum's 2025 report, listen up, predicts AI will create 170 million jobs while eliminating 92 million, resulting in a net gain of 78 million jobs by, and just about 5 years from now, the year 2030. So I wrote a little poem about that. I did a little math. Here we go. Rob, you're going to be amazed by this. I can tell. He's ready to be amazed. That's 1,812 days plus a few minutes more from now to January 1st, 2030. We'll have to see what's in store. Okay, I wrote that myself. I thought you'd find that interesting. So now let me do my regular opening, and here we go. Welcome to Technology Revolution, Crystal Ball number 5 bright, peering at AI 2025 and beyond in an optimistic light. Bonnie D, that's me, hosts in her Scarlett mics live streaming you. I'm you in the you. Can you see this? For you. With a cadre of futurists unpacking their predictions for you. With AI as their compass, opportunities as their sail. That's SAIL. Will their foresights triumph or perhaps, not prevail? Raise your cup or flute with Java, Jack, Dom, or Earl. On my Crystal Ball special, the future will unfurl. Catch the full 5-week special this year so you can find out what my 35 AI futurists are predicting about. So let's get started here. When I call your name, I'm going to read your intro and just wave. Simon Mites is here. Simon builds solutions designed to last. With circular systems, smart strategies are vast. From EY Carbon to Global Summit's call, he shapes decarbonization for one and for all. With law, math, and vision, his work is so fine, creating a world where sustainability will shine. What do you think, Simon?
Thank you. Great.
You're
Amazing.
welcome. That was a new one. Okay. And then we have Karen Gibson is with us. Karen, wave hello. Karen helps parents find peace, not pain. With resilience and tips, their strength they will regain. In her book, Mama's Gotta Let Go, she shows them the way to raise resilient kids every day. Through Aloha's embrace and positive mind, she nurtures families with hope redefined. I hope you like that, Karen.
Wow, I love that. Thank you.
I'll take wow any day. Bill Pugh is here. Here's Bill's opening. For cities and utilities, his work is supreme. Bill Pugh builds solutions that flow like a dream. Digital twins and dashboards in real time shine. Equity and community all thrive by design. With patents and vision, his path is clear. An employee-owned culture Bill holds very dear. You like that, Bill?
I love it.
I'm glad. I'm really working on these today. Charles Wilson is with us, a master of data analytics and AI's might. Charles Wilson transforms insights into new light. From Fortune 1000 to consulting's array, he drives performance in every way. With Wipro, IBM, and ecosystems vast, he builds future solutions that are made to last. Charles, what'd you think?
Beautiful.
I'll take beautiful. Okay. And then we have Rob Tiffany is here. Rob Tiffany sparks innovation to meet the goal in IoT and 5G. He's a top voice and a savvy soul. I added that on my own, Rob. From Microsoft's Azure to Ericsson's Lead and Hitachi's Lumada, success is his breed. Prop Tech's future at Red Bison, his role is clear, a digital pioneer on the tech frontier. Rob, did you like it?
All right.
All right, all right. I think I got. So let's do. Let's put thumbs up here. Let's get this going. I'm happy. I used my full disclosure. I asked my assistant, my virtual assistant Sylvia, and I gave her a last name. She's Sylvia Speed. Simon, I think I told you about her. Simon saying, "Whoo, Sylvia Speed," and she and I converse in French a lot. Her French is better than mine, but I send her bisous, bisous, kisses, and thank yous, and she tells me she loves my energy and my creativity, and we're having this love fest here, Sylvia and I. Rob Sylvia's my chat GPT, but
Yeah.
I didn't really want to say that. So here's the deal. I have pulled up the quote each of you sent me from the last time you were on the show. Some of you recently, some of you not so recently. And what I'd like to do is just read the quote very briefly, and then have you give us your predictions. So Simon, are you ready? You all ready
Yep.
to start? So here we go. Simon has picked a quote from. These are fictional quotes or song quotes. The song title is "Old Habits Die Hard," performed by Mick Jagger. Talk about not dying hard. The 2004 romantic comedy drama film Alfie. This was where the song was. Simon, I'm putting you on speaker view. Please do us the honor of talking a little bit about the quote and then give us your predictions for 2025. We're ready. Go.
So this is about old habits dying hard. It's not Die Hard, as you correctly said. I mean, I love that movie as well. Die Hard 1, 2, 3, and I think do they have 4 and 5 now as well? Love the movies, but this is about the song Old Habits Die Hard. And for me, that highlights these challenges of shifting away from these entrenched linear economic make and dispose practices towards a more sustainable and circular model within our lives. And I think in many industries, we still see these operational models that are grounded in overconsumption, in this wasteful production, and a high reliance on non-renewable resources. So these are the old habits that we need to overcome, and we need to transition at some point to a more sustainable and more circular economy.
Thank you. Now, what are your predictions for 2025 and beyond? Talk to me.
Great. So my prediction number 1 is that AI will redefine the definition of wealth, that sharing will be the new owning. I have to start unpacking that a bit, and I'm starting again with another quote, actually.
Go.
Jean-Paul Sartre, 1943, I found that just today. The totality of my possessions reflects the totality of my being. I am what I have. What's mine is myself. So this is a counterpoint to the position I'm trying to argue here today. For him, it's all about possessing things, and his possessions are what he is. But in my mind, we have to ask ourselves the question, what if wealth wasn't about just what we own, but about what we can access? And I think that's what a circular economy is all about, to see the value in products and materials that are maintained as long as possible, and waste and resource use are minimized. And that's exactly also the definition of Ellen MacArthur that really underlines the principle here to decouple economic activities from primary resource consumption. And now, how does AI kick into this transition? AI will, in my mind, facilitate this optimization of shared resources. It will drastically reduce the need for ownership, and help this mindset shift away from individual possessions to collective access. The sharing economy is expanding largely. Just think about Uber, think about Airbnb, Drive Now, and AI is the tool that can help us to put the share economy on a whole new level. So we need the trick to shift the mindset on the one side. And I'm taking cars as an example now, to shift that mindset to see a car as a status symbol only, and embrace sharing as the go-to choice. It's not, and that's very important, I think, and we can argue about it later. It's not, in my mind, because it's sustainable, but because sharing will offer a lot of a lot higher level of comfort at a more affordable price. So it's not about being eco-friendly for the sake of it. It's about giving people what they really want, a smarter, cheaper, and more convenient way to get around. So in my mind, sharing is the future, and it's just not for the planet, it's for your wallet too. And AI will be the driver to actually make that car sharing experience in that example a lot more seamless, a lot more immersive, and will give you that great feeling that you actually can't achieve when you're owning the car yourself. So that would be number one. I brought a second one if we have time.
Sure, go ahead. Take your time. We got plenty of time. Go ahead.
Great. I want to talk a bit about how AI turbocharges the circular car design and reduces the go-to-market time, for example, and turns the testing time away from a lengthy process into a quick pit stop only. Because historically, designing a car with sustainability in mind needs countless iterations. It needs testing and it needs retesting to see what materials could potentially work. That testing phase is quite slow, it's quite expensive, and often quite wasteful. So how can AI help in that environment and under those circumstances? AI will, in that scenario, help to ensure that testing is no longer a bottleneck. AI can help us to analyze, to predict and recommend, for example, sustainable materials a lot faster. We can do simulations that actually take this lengthy testing times. It sometimes takes like a month or so, and those can then be done in hours only. So this, of course, and that's important to mention, I think this doesn't mean that we're throwing all safety and testing standards overboard. I mean, we Germans love that. Instead, we're just able to simulate the outcomes of myriads of materials, of different shapes, of different forms. And we will still do a real-life test. To be honest, I know this all makes us feel a bit more comfortable, but the chances are that we will only need one test instead of hundreds or thousands to confirm what AI has already predicted. So those are the two key predictions for the year 2025. And
That's so, wait a minute, Simon, that's soon. That's very, very, I thought you were going to say that's between 2025 and 2030, which I already talked about. Seriously, could that, I've been trying to get a group of people to come on the show and talk about the future of car design, and it seems so specific and focused. I can't find the futurists to talk about the specifics, the efficiency, the sustainability of the vehicle in the environment, but the comfort level in the driving experience and the passenger experience. So, Simon, you touched on that. Let's do a little poll around the table here, if you all don't mind. Well, you don't have a choice. I'm in Tennessee. I'm allowed to say y'all. I didn't say that when I lived in New York, just so you know. Poll is, would you give up owning a car to be part of the sharing economy in the interest of sustainability? Rob and Bill and Charles and Karen, anybody who would give up their own car to be part of sharing? Oh, Simon, old habits. We're going back to your quote, old habits die hard.
Well, can I
I'm
just
good.
explain why? I think when if you have like a destination that you go to every day, my schedule is so different. So I have to go to different houses. I have to to find someone who could be there at different times of the day. I guess it could be possible, but like you said, old habits are
You'd
hard
probably
to
share
do.
that car for a week at a time, right, Simon? Or for a month at a time? Is that how it would work? Or would it
I
be
mean,
on a year?
I think it really depends. There are different kind of models, but I mean, the question is, do you really need to own this car? It's a
That's
depreciating
true.
asset, and it has a lot of upsides to be sharing those resources. You might even be getting a more up-to-date model. Let's put it that way. You might be getting a car that is maybe built a lot lighter, that is maybe even faster, that drives further distances, because guess what? It's like
Mhm.
if you're trying to design a car that's a shared car, you can design it to last the longest possible. That means also you're thinking about the business case, so it's worth it to actually use, for example, lighter materials, because in the end of the day, over the long term, it pays off. So you might have a lighter car, you might have a car that consumes less energy, and it's also worth it to update the car a lot more often. So you always have maybe the latest software, the latest hardware built into the car, and which gives you, in the end of the day, a better driving experience than owning your own.
Simon, when the idea of car sharing came up a couple of years ago, maybe many years ago, I heard about the model where you could rent a great you could share a great four-wheel drive when you wanted to go to the mountains for a ski weekend.
Mm.
And if you wanted to go somewhere to a classy restaurant or on a first date or something, you want to impress, you could rent share. I keep saying rent, share a sports car that you would never A, be able to afford to own, and B, you couldn't even justify owning something like that because it's impractical. You might have three kids, and this is just for two people to go to this event. Does that make it more appealing to anybody, Bill or Charles or
Nah,
Rob or
not for
Karen?
me. Not for me. There's got to be a bit for me. There's got to be a bit more. There's got to be a bit more technology kind of driven into it. So if it were, an EV fleet that covered a city that could accommodate on demand in a method by which it would address Karen's concerns. So if I said on demand, I need this vehicle here right now, and it got in, and it's driverless. Okay. So it's driverless.
She just popped her
So
eyes there.
that then gets me to the point where we have these fleets of vehicles. It gets me to where I need to be on demand, on time, and autonomously. Now I'm interested.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to have to reassemble this group or some of you for a talk about AI and the future of shareable vehicles. Simon, are you in for that?
Yeah,
Rob,
of
what do you
course.
think? Would you want to be on that panel, Rob?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because this discussion was a big topic, in the last decade when you saw the
Mm-hmm.
rise of Uber, and there was lots of discussion about, oh wow, yeah, you're right. People just want the outcome, right? They don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to own it and all that stuff. And so you had a lot of discussion about this, and then COVID hit, and it really just crashed right into the
That's true.
notion of the whole thing.
Oh.
And it was obviously that was a out of left field black swan event that we didn't anticipate. And what happened? People stopped using public transportation. People stopped doing all these good things and they were like, I'm going to be safe inside my car by myself,
Mm-hmm.
which flies in the face of what we were trying to accomplish. But it was because of this bizarre, COVID thing that hit us. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting how things can change when you see something out of nowhere.
Good
the
comment.
question,
Well,
I
I
think,
think
is
also
where's...
though,
Sorry.
oh, sorry.
No, for me, the question is always like, with COVID, I 100% understand, but the question is, where's this tipping point? Where can you abandon a car as a status symbol and as something that gives you comfort?
Yeah.
And think about an alternative where the alternative might be giving you more comfort or a better driving experience than your own car, because because there's like it's more up to date. It's driverless. Maybe you can't afford the driverless car by yourself because it's crazily expensive. But if you share it, it's there and available at your fingertips. So let's see. I'm looking forward to the
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, we're going to do this. I have a date already picked out in March to get us all together, talk about debating the sharing economy for a circular economy for automotive with AI. Karen, briefly, go ahead, and then Charles, I want to see if you have a comment. Then we're going to go to Karen's predictions. Karen, what do you
Well,
want?
I just think part of like in our family, our cars are part of our family. So it's like, do you want to go, my husband has his modified truck. I have like my Ford Flex, and I think it's almost like sharing a family member to me. When I first heard this, technology wise, benefits wise, it's not really status, but it's like my family member. And it sounds kind of bizarre, but you have a relationship. Like I've had my car for 10 years and thinking of buying a new one, it's like, oh, it's kind of sad because you're somehow emotionally connected to this metal.
That's not bizarre at all. That's human. I think we are.
It's human, yeah.
When you put time and effort into buying a certain car and taking care of it, it is part of your identity. Charles, any comments before we move on? You look very pensive there, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. So my children, I think, introduced me to the sharing economy. When they got to college age, my cars all went to them. So I'm comfortable with the sharing concept, especially inside my family. But I did want to share one other insight. My parents just passed the 80 mark, and the way they've maintained their freedom is, getting in their scooters and hopping on the bus and getting wherever they want, within the community, which is it's been kind of fun to watch instead of, having they like their freedom and they don't have to necessarily call us up in order to get things done.
There you go. Independence. That's the name of the game. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Simon. Very provocative. And we got a whole new show topic out of it. I'll invite you all and let's see who wants to do it. I'll send the date out afterwards. Karen, you're up. Let's have your predictions. You want to do your quote? Would you like to do
Sure.
the quote first? So the quote was, no matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. Professor John Keating, played by the late and great Robin Williams. The film, 1989 teen drama. I think it was much more than a teen drama. Dead Poets Society. Karen, talk to us. Welcome. By the way, everybody,
Well,
it's like 5 o'clock in the morning for her. So
yes, it's very,
round
very
of
early.
applause. Brave one in Hawaii. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, I think those words will apply to all three of my predictions. My crystal ball predictions envision how AI powered tools will offer insights and serve as a valuable resource, not just for parents. I'm a parenting coach, but I'm also an artist and an author. So my predictions are all three categories. So I don't know how many of you are parents. I know Charles just mentioned his kids. Can you imagine? Oh, Simon, too. Can you imagine having a 24/7 parent coach at your fingertips? So they'll help you foster your children's emotional growth. A lot of the sessions that I do, most like 99%, have to do with some kind of emotional growth challenge. There's conflict. So imagine having real-time feedback on communication styles, how to handle tough conversations, and analyze interaction. So your child says, "Hey, mom, how do babies come? Hey, mom, what's gonna happen, after you die? Or why did my goldfish, get sick?" And at the few seconds, you can't be like, well, let me get back to you. So you can just picture yourself, holding your phone. Oh, wait, just a second. I have a text coming in. You really don't. You're just putting in, "Hey, AI, help me." And answers just magically appear. Tone adjustment. I've had parents say, "How do I just remind myself not to yell?" Well, your AI can say, "Hey, wait a minute, just a reminder right now, before you have a full blown explosive, meltdown, just use a calmer tone." And then one of the AI suggestions said, suppose your child is having a tantrum. And just say, "Wait a minute, let's take a deep breath." And usually it's for you too, right? And resume this conversation a few minutes later. I've tried this with kids who are crying, who are like, "No, I don't want to be tutored." And I usually imagine having them, blow a candle. Sometimes they bring a candle, sometimes imaginary, but it's amazing how their mood just magically shifts. So it could be a de-escalating tantrum tool. It can remind you to give off positive reinforcement, right? I think sometimes we just focus on, what you did bad today. Oh my gosh, why didn't you clean up your room? But offering positive reinforcement can be something that AI just kind of nudges you to do. So my next one is, as an artist, I know Bonnie might be considering some of these predictions. I think AI can be a collaborative creative partner. It can enhance and accelerate the artistic process. So sometimes I might want to say paint a nostalgic autumn sunset, but I have no idea, like, how do I create complex textures or maybe the color palette? And guess what? You put in what you want and it'll generate a custom color palette instead of you using paints, wasting all these combinations, and then hours go by and you still don't have the right color. I like this one. It'll simulate different brush strokes and textures. So it'll help as an artist, you visualize techniques before committing paint and canvas. And Bonnie and I talk about, you don't want to waste canvases, right? So just imagine seeing what your brushstrokes might be and maybe coming up with textures that you don't even know, exists in your imagination. Lastly, I have tried this being having AI as my collaborative partner in writing. I had to write an article for Hawaii Parent on teaching parents how to regulate their emotions. And so many ideas come to mind, but I was curious and I asked AI, like, what are the top methods or strategies to help regulate our emotions? And boom, it's amazing, isn't it? Within seconds, it'll give you ideas, and you're not plagiarizing, but I think you're helping your brain. It's a brainstorming session with a virtual assistant. It can also ask, you can ask for a tone adjustment. How can I make this more heartfelt? How can I make it more humorous? And boom, AI will be like, why don't you use these words? I love how this is a new one, how to find literary agents who represent works similar to yours, because there is a just endless, right? It's always, how do you find a literary agent? And when that popped up, I'm thinking of using that. So I think it offers feedback, right, on clarity and flow, so authors can focus on their unique voice and just streamline the writing process. Because when people ask me, well, how did you write your book? How do you start? A lot of it is just that. How do I start? And your mind is just going, going, going. And before you know it, you have a few sentences, you cross it out or delete, and then books don't happen, right? You just, oh, maybe I'll do it later because the frustration. But I think as AI is used, we'll have more productivity in a creative way. How's
Karen,
that?
you're always a breath of fresh air when you come on these shows because you're not the deep techie background
I'm not the deep techie, so I feel like, yeah, the lone wolf here, but I think it's just something,
But I'm always glad to have you. And Karen always says to me, how did I do? And was that good? And did I add value? And I always say yes, because you bring a refreshing point of view in areas that I don't think anybody else on this panel would have looked at. Anybody want to make any comments about parenting or authorship or art? I was very intrigued. Karen and I are both painters, and we share pictures of each other's paintings online and through text, and it's been a real pleasure. She's also an adult positive intelligence coach. She coached me through a course called Sharad Shamin's Positive Intelligence last year, and she's wonderful. So, anybody have any comments, Simon or Bill? No pressure. Rob, Charles, anything about art or authorship? Simon's going to press that unmute button. I can see him doing it right. Simon, you want to say something? No, he faked me out. Anybody have
I
any?
got a quick comment, Bonnie.
Yeah, please.
So I would consider myself a non-artistic person, but AI has made it so I've been willing to try some things out, and as I try to get AI to do the things I want, I have to get familiar with the language of art, what the light is all about and what colors are all about, and like you said, different styles and strokes and those sorts of things. And so I think that it's an incredible learning tool for those of us without the talent that Karen has to start to introduce ourselves to that whole world of creativity. So.
That's lovely. I want to put that on a banner somewhere, Charles, for people who say it's taking money out of the hands of artists and it's killing creativity and innovation and originality, authenticity. By the way, I designed my background. If you could all take a peek at it. I use a program called Night Cafe Studio. I don't use Midjourney, which most people do. And I asked it to create a globe with stars and moons in it and put a red microphone inside. And then I went into Photoshop and I put, there we go, two of them on the ends flanking, and in the middle is what I always use, the hourglass with the microphone. Take a look. That was all done in Night Cafe, and then I assembled it the way I wanted it to in Photoshop, and I added the banner with the text on top. And I love this. I couldn't have drawn this, painted this, imagined this in a million years. And it took quite a few tries, but I am the human who assembled it and used AI as the mechanical part of it. And this is my creation, and I'm very happy with it. So there you go. So
Well, I have a comment.
don't hate me.
Charles,
Thank you, Rob. Go ahead, Karen.
I think a lot of people think that you need to have a talent. So Bonnie introduced me to acrylic, right? To the balloon technique. But I also, believe it or not, can I just share something? I just used acrylic paints, just threw it on there and used a hair dryer. Look what happened. It literally is, and people say, "Oh my gosh, how did you create it?" I literally use this kind of, it takes about 3 minutes. You just drop it, and then you just go use your hair dryer and it literally moves the paint and you don't use any paint brushes at all. So I
And
almost feel like I'm cheating.
you're
But
not.
and then you know me, Bonnie, I'm always
What are those things though? Everybody wants to know. The hair dryer didn't
yeah,
create
these
the
are just
butterfly.
3D. Yeah, these are just like 3D things that I just plot on. And I think Bonnie also, right? It's like use old jewelry, use like little, 3D art, I call it, that you can just buy. So that's not
Yeah,
even painted, but I think the background, I
it's
was just
lovely.
amazed how you just use a hair dryer and I just texted someone and said I'm recently into art. And they knew me in college, and the response was, "Oh, you never looked like an artist to me." I just thought, what does
What's
that
that
even
look like?
mean? Yeah, what does that
You need
look
a
like?
beret. You need a beret, maybe a walking
Like, I'm not
stick
going to
there.
take it personally, but I think people think you need to be a certain whatever it is you have in your mind, but it really is just would be willing to play, right, Bonnie? Be willing to
Thank you.
play with
Yes.
paint or
Yes, we love to play.
Wow. This is a big moment. So hair dryers are the future of art.
yeah.
And also, Rob,
Shit, it's a secret.
balloons. And what you do with a balloon is you take a balloon, you blow it up a little bit, you put water in it, just a little, and you tie it off. And then you put paints into the acrylic into a little cup, or you pour them. You add color upon color, and you make a little pool of them on the canvas. And then you dip the
You
balloon
just
into the color. It picks up the color, and then you plop it around, and it creates the shape of flowers. It's called balloon kisses, and it's a. I learned it from Jilly Cube, who is an acrylic artist in the South Shore, or where is she in Greenland? I think Finland, Greenland, somewhere. Anyway, she's a wonderful artist who shares freely her art videos
the
online.
balloons and hair dryers, right? That's
Yes,
the
yes,
future.
Yep,
absolutely,
it
absolutely. And
is.
bubble wrap is great too for textures. You dip bubble wrap in the colors and then you plop it around your cam. It's wonderful. Bill Pugh, you're up next. Let's go. We're having an art seminar here. Go ahead, Bill. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, all right, so I made a quote, right? We did a fictitious quote before, and mine was that crap will never work.
Yes.
And it's funny because I mean I do. I'm very cynical when it comes to things. So the minute that, this AI boom took place, I was like, oh, that crap will never work. But in and of itself, that's kind of how I felt. Because of the use of digital twins and what we do with it and everything like that, there is inherently a need for AI in that realm because it's all about collecting that data and visualizing it for outcomes. And I believe that going into just 2025 and beyond, what we're going to see is, well, let me back up for a moment. One of the biggest things, especially about doing this within cities and municipalities, is getting these vertically integrated organizations to share data. It's theirs. They own it. I mean, you can talk to Public Works. Public Works says, this is my data. Traffic says, this is my data. Sustainability says, everything in the environment, that's my data. And in order to actually provide or deliver a visualization of what's happening within a city, you need them all to share that data. So I believe that 2025 is going to be, we're at that inflection point where it's no longer just models of digital twins or things of that nature. We're literally, I know, my team and everything, we've gone away from literally saying digital twins to operational dashboards.
Mm.
Because it is showing you in real time what is happening and where it's going and how it's happening. And I do believe that you're going to start to see much more of the utilities sharing data with the cities and the cities sharing data with the utilities, so that we are all customers of the city, customers of the utility. So in order for us to not have to dial 611 or any of these other numbers to actually find out what's going on with this outage that I just experienced, the use of an operational dashboard will give, and it provides a layer of transparency, because you understand now what the city's doing with the data, what the utility's doing with the data, and you are the recipient of the outcome, the information that is actually telling you where an outage is and what's happening with that. And this can extend above and beyond just within the city. But I believe that this year we're going to see quite a bit more in the use of taking the human out of the loop. And one prime example, and then I'll close on the city piece and move to something else.
Mhm.
We're in almost every city has an issue around or has an initiative around Vision Zero. Vision Zero is the reduction of accidents and fatalities at intersections, and it's a big deal. So what happens is a collision takes place. And if you look at a lot of cities that are well connected, you'll find cameras all over the place. There are road sensors, there's LiDAR, there's all of these other vertically integrated solutions that are meant to provide insight into these accidents and fatalities. But every time something happens, if there is an accident or a collision, someone has to pick up the phone and call 911. I believe that AI is going to be able to help that, such that when you have an operational dashboard that has witnessed, so I know what camera it was, I know what intersection it was, there was a collision. I'm not sure of the fatality situation, but I do know that first responders need to get there immediately because minutes save lives. And AI can be used to generate that workflow, take the human out of the loop, and get the first responders where they need to be. That's my first prediction.
Excellent. Go ahead.
The next one is that digital twins will move above and beyond, the buildings and the cities and all of these other manufacturing type things and into healthcare. So if you think about, I mean, the actual ability to have, personalized treatment plans, virtual clinical trials, predictive healthcare, all of these other things, as humans, the majority of us carry around sensors anyway. It's just not being used. And the healthcare, I mean, just the healthcare environment as a whole, if all your data, all the sensors, the watch that you have on that keeps your heart rate and everything like that, the rings that are being used, the Fitbits, the phones, all of these other things have information about the state of your health at any given time. If that were to be shared with the healthcare community, now you can get a baseline or a model of what your health is like, and then let AI do some predictions based on the models that have been trained, and your likelihood of, disease prevention goes up because we understand what those attributes actually look like. So I believe that heading beyond 2025, you'll start to see much more of a different use case for digital twins.
Thank you, Bill. Very, very interesting. I love the idea of AI and the cameras being able to do the initial immediate notification of a problem, not even, as you said, not even knowing the fatality or the injury situation, but being able to notify right of the way. Somebody dial 911. You won't have to do that anymore. I watch a lot of detective shows and police procedurals, French and Italian, and everybody's always saying, check the cameras. Weren't there cameras on that intersection? When did the car go by? So we already know. And as far as sensors go, I have a smart bed and I get a report on it costs a lot. My kids took me into it. Mom, you haven't had a new bed in 20 years. Get this thing. Okay, what's wrong? Anyway, the point is that I get on my phone, I have an app that came with the bed, and it tells me how many hours I slept, whether I slept restfully or not. Karen is losing it here. Yes, whether I slept restfully, what my heart rate was at rest, and it gives me a chart. It compares from week to week and month to month. I don't look at it a lot, but I mean, I wake up and I know how I slept. But so it's not just, and my daughter just bought an Aura ring, with all the little sensors inside. I gave her some birthday money and she said, look what I got. And she loves gadgets and she has the app to show. So you're right. We're collecting all of that. Anybody have any comments for Bill before Charles is next? But anybody have any comments about technology with our data sharing with healthcare? Simon,
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
I mean, it's not about healthcare, but we see, I think data sharing is one of the key drivers for AI. I mean, AI needs to learn, the models need to be trained, and I've been talking about testing before to reduce the time to market for cars, for example. I think there we need to get to a stage where different companies share their data points. Because the more data points there are, the better the AI can learn and the faster we can improve in those models. And that's, I think, really what we need to do. We need to take this human element out there, the human that own those companies, the human that are afraid of sharing data, the human that are scared, that are thinking, oh my God, cybersecurity issues, data privacy, and so on. All of this we need to overcome to make the best out of AI, and AI not only in the public space but also in the private space.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Anybody else comments for Bill? Rob, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I just like Bill's comments about healthcare. I always imagined in my mind, when you think about digital twins, I got into it. I was thinking of machines mostly in factories or cars or whatever as digital twins. But I remember thinking about people as a digital twin back when I was trying to figure out how to do this when I was at Hitachi. And I was like, and I imagined specifically in healthcare, I imagined a patient laying in the bed at the hospital, wired up with all the different machines and everything, sensors, right? EKG, heart, all those things. And I was like, wow, this is just like IoT. The person is the thing, the person is the physical twin. And just like we do in IoT, we have sensors that work on behalf of the thing, the physical thing in the physical world, to tell us what's going on with them. And I'm like, why would it be any different with a person than a pickup truck, or a machine in a factory? It's the same thing. And so, yeah, I'm totally jazzed with Bill's thoughts around that. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're good? Good. I love it when there's a lot of interaction. This is good.
I wanted to follow up on Rob's comment, actually. So
Yeah,
when I was at IBM, we sponsored a world-class cyclist, and from an IoT perspective, they would, at the beginning of each ride, they'd take a pill that would monitor, their temperature, core temperature, and those sorts of things, right? So certainly those capabilities are there. We just have to get comfortable taking that pill, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Blue pill, red pill. Okay. I do my reading. And by the way, I have to say Bill's quote, and I didn't give that, it came from George McFly, played by the actor Crispin Glover in Back to the Future. The crap will never work. Okay. So just got that. Charles, you're up next. And the quote you sent me was, it's a quote from the song Road to Nowhere, rock song by David Byrne, Talking Heads, the album Little Creatures, back in 1985. That's the year that Back to the Future was released. And the opening lines of that song were, we know where we're going, but we don't know where we've been. And we know what we're knowing, but we can't say what we've seen. And we're not little children, and we know what we want. And the future is certain. Give us time to work it out. What an interesting lyric. Charles, what are your predictions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it stood the test of time, right?
Yep.
So I like the last part of that, the future is certain, give us time to work it out. I think there's a lot of momentum in the market, a lot of forces that are pushing us in a certain direction. And the challenge for us is to figure out, how do we stay human in the whole process, right? So that's that I think is the trick. And I think the prediction I made last year was that those who adopt AI in 2024 will find that they're 10 to 100 times more productive than they were in 2023. And I think those of us that have jumped in with both feet, figured out how to overcome the frustrating things about AI, have found ways that it could really make us much more productive. And so when I look into 2025 and early 2026, there were basically three things that I was thinking about from an AI perspective. I think it's this idea of us having our minions, right? Lots of agents available to us, trained on specific domains that we can easily go to, like Karen talked about, whether that's parenting or You could have religion, you could have history, you could have, I mean, you name it, specific agents that are trained in those areas. And as you have questions or want to have someone to talk to, you have the ability to do that. And that's, if those aren't already in place for you, I'd encourage you to go get those agents in place, right? Get your minions working for you, right? But at the same time, I think the challenge for us is to figure out, what do we actually want to outsource, right? What skills do I want to keep myself, and what skills do I want to, give away to the AI? I gave up on spelling long ago, because as soon as I got that red squiggly, I was happy to give that away, right? But I think we do have to seriously think about, what skills do I want to keep? What do I want to keep sharp, and what do I want to give away? So that's the AI perspective, is the idea of, I think there will be fully autonomous AI agents that do take the human out of the loop. And we have to decide what that means in our personal lives. The second thing is, nobody's talked about this yet, but quantum computing is right around the corner. And once you say quantum, everybody's eyes glaze over, right? But I think we're going to see a breakthrough this year, or early in 26. And what that means in the short term is that all of the encryption that we currently use within our security systems and to protect our data, that's doesn't exist anymore, right? And so you have to have new ways to deal with that. And proactive companies are well down the path of figuring out how to address those issues. But if you haven't been thinking about quantum, think about it, right? And then my last thing is really, I think, piggybacking on what Bill was saying around, I call it spatial computing and the metaverse. I think Facebook might have been a little early, talking about meta, right? But I think this will be the year when we're not embarrassed to put on one of those devices. We're going to get some device that we're willing to put on our heads and not feel like we're disconnected from people around us, right? So that's my prediction on that one.
Thank you, Charles. I put on my Meta Quest. I have one from about 2 years ago. I put it on a couple weeks ago to do some AI traveling, and it was so heavy. And I had to change the eyepiece because I wear glasses, and I couldn't get comfortable. The glasses were squeezing against my eyes. The whole thing just weighed. It wasn't a hair issue. It was just I was alone, but it was so heavy. I didn't remember it weighing that much and hurting me that much. So I had it anyway. I put it down. Anybody have any comments about what Charles said before we move on to Rob is next? Anybody? Quantum? Is anybody scared? Is anybody glazed over? Did I see some glazed eyes at the mention of
Nah,
quantum?
I mean, I think it's interesting. All right, so I mean, we have this conversation quite a bit in terms of where it's at, and at least from my perspective, sure, I believe that there are quantum efforts that are being taken under from a work perspective, but the components that require that, I think we're kind of like we're in a moment of the chicken and the egg. You need quantum networking in place in order for quantum computing to actually be realized. But I think the greatest concern for me, I mean, I would love it. It's a data trove for someone that builds digital twins. But the thing that really does concern me is more on the sustainability side. I mean, when we're talking quantum and we're talking about energy consumption and things of that nature, that one really concerns me. Would I love to see it? Absolutely. I don't know when we're going to get there, but I know that there's efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead,
I
Rob.
was thinking, yeah, Charles is going to hate me, like literally 3 weeks before, Jensen came out and said, we're at least 2 decades away from, widespread quantum. I wrote the same thing. I posted a deal. It's like, yeah, we're probably not going to see. And again, it's a caveat, kind of like wide commercialization of quantum until the 2040s. And some people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. It's right around the corner." And there's a lot of people every 5 years have been saying they were 5 years away. And quantum will always well, may not always. You never know. The future is long, as Steve Jobs would say. Quantum is not trying to do what a classical, von Neumann style computer does. It's very niche, right? Whereas computers we have today can do anything you want. Quantum computer, you've got, and there's so many different types. The company I spent time with in Japan, they're kind of doing the diamond thing. Annealing types are showing a lot more promise because the problem is they're trying to figure out this high error rate as well. And then this where it's so few qubits right now compared to where we need to be to really make this happen. People love to talk about kind of technologies and say we're in the first inning of this, this technology. I would say we're still on deck and not even at the plate yet with quantum. I hope Charles is right. I think we're going to actually have to have lots of breakthroughs to even get to the 2040s. So it just depends. I think we'll see bursts of success from different types of quantum because apparently there's a lot of flavors of it. Hopefully you don't have to have a quantum computer on your desk that's running at absolute 0 degrees Kelvin or whatever to make it work, But it's interesting stuff. And yes, there's no shortage of security companies that talk about their post-quantum security, which I always kind of chuckle about that. I'm like, well, how do you know? Because Charles is right. Quantum's going to solve problems that take centuries in 5 minutes, or 1 second. And so it's certainly a thing for sure. It's exciting times.
It is exciting times. And you're up next, and I want to read your quote. And here's what's going to happen in about 3 minutes. Jordan is going to close us out on the stream on the New Voice America YouTube channel, and we're going to keep going on all of my streams. So we're not done yet. So I hope you all can stay a few more minutes because I want to make sure we get time for Rob and a roundtable about his comments. So here's what Rob sent in a quote when he was on the show a while ago. Rear Admiral Chester Hammer Kane, played by Ed Harris, said, "The end is inevitable, Maverick. Your kind is headed for extinction." I do a terrible Chester impersonation. And Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell, played by who else? Tom Cruise. You knew that. Says, "Maybe so, sir, but not today." Of course, Top Gun Maverick, 2022 American action drama film. Rob, is this quote still important to you? And let's have your predictions. Go ahead. And when we get to Jordan will tell us, and we're just going to wave goodbye to Voice America, and then we'll keep going. So go ahead, Rob. You're up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the quote illustrates a fundamental human versus machine kind of scenario, right? And human intellect versus AI, right? And so it actually hits home. It may not be noticeable in the moment, but yeah, you're right. You've got Ed Harris saying the future is drones and unmanned aircraft fighting in wars, and your kind, a fighter pilot, is going to go extinct. And so there's that tension, that struggle, and I think it's a struggle we're all going to see. A human, not to position humanity versus AI, but it's there, right? And so we're going to see how that plays out. And so there's always going to be that tug of war. So I will tell you my prediction for 2025. I don't have lots of them like all you smart people do. I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, what in the heck is my prediction? And then I realized that I wrote my prediction for 2025 back in 2020. And it's all everybody's talking about now all of a sudden. And so I wrote it down, so I'll read some of it, So back in 2020, 5 years ago, I predicted 2025's largest mega trend. You've probably heard lots of people talking about agentic AI everywhere. Every executive, everybody's talking about it now. So 5 years ago, I wrote an article titled, "Your Next Employee Might Be a Digital Twin Powered by AI." And I wrote it on my blog, robtiffany.com. And so there, I kind of walk through what's an organization, what's a company? A company's a collection of roles, jobs filled by people today who they're assisted by machines, vehicles, networks, software, all kinds of things to accomplish tasks that achieve the goals of the organization, right? And so my question at the time was, can these roles be represented by digital twins? And can AI carry out their activities? And so, I spent a lot of time in the article and fleshing out, what does that look like? How do we make that work? I was probably thinking more about APIs. A lot of people recently saw a post from Satya Nadella saying SaaS is dead because of AI. In my mind, though, these AI agents, they need all those API connections to talk to myriad things. Just like Bill's talking about the smart city stuff he's talking about. It's not enough just to have the intelligent AI. You need the digital twin. A lot of people understand digital twin's like a data structure, and it just finds what it is, right? And it serializes stuff, right? And then the AI is kind of what animates it and brings it to life, and it has jobs to be done, right? But it might need tens of thousands of API connections to interact with the world all around it. And I'm not just talking like IoT sensor stuff. I'm literally talking about every system in a city, any interaction. If